All right, dads, welcome back to another episode of the Daddiest Project podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Evan Hill, and this is my co-host, Dr. Scott Vatcher.
Scotty.
Scat. Today we're going to talk about how important you are as a dad, and we're going to get into some stats, some heavy stats, but they're important stats because it really exemplifies how important you are and really sets the foundation for the rest of the conversation, which is really about choosing to be 100% committed to being present in your child's life. And then the second part of it is what are you bringing inside of that presence? And that's what the Daddiest Project is about. That's what Daddiest is about. We introduce you a little bit more to who Daddiest is, because it's not us. It's something that's created, and it's special. We're very proud of Daddiest, and we want to share Daddiest with the world. So, Scott, any thoughts?
Yeah. Today's episode, we got some heavy stuff, but we got some light stuff. We're trying to lighten up some heavy stuff to make the light stuff heavier and the heavier stuff lighter. You'll understand. And
Yeah.
you get to choose which tree you're going to be. Pretty
Yes.
important stuff. So
Very important.
stay tuned for today's episode to understand what kind of tree you're going to be. Warning, this podcast may cause excessive dad jokes, sudden bursts of motivation, and the irresistible urge to high-five yourself.
Welcome to the Daddiest Project, where we help dads master the biggest and messiest project of your life, dadhood.
I'm Scott Vatcher, recovering perfectionist, dad of one teenage girl, and a guy who once didn't sleep for 6 months straight.
And I'm Evan Hill, professional chaos coordinator, dad of 3 teenagers, and living proof that duct tape can fix a sippy cup temporarily.
Each week, we'll hit you with real talk, dad hacks, and the kind of inspiration that doesn't require matching socks.
Ready to level up? Let's build this dad life together. We're going to talk about how important you are as a dad. And this is one of our initial chapters in the Daddiest Project book. And I'm going to read this little excerpt out of it. So we have to get one thing straight right from the get-go. You, dad, are critical to your child's success in almost every area of life. The number one factor that influences your child's chances of becoming a thriving adult is whether you are present and engaged in their life or absent from it. The differences in statistics between children who have their dads in their lives and those who don't are staggering. So, I mean, we could piggyback that topic for the rest of this podcast, really. Because when we wrote this book, we didn't know these stats initially. And then when we dove in and we discovered the stats, it was like, wow. This is incredible. And I think for me, I was always thinking about like my experience of being a dad and having like the baby's born and learning and like getting through like all the different pieces of being a dad and all the stages and being on top of like the lists and stuff of things that need to be bought and brought and that sort of thing. And then when we were writing the book and we are looking at it more from like, what is it going to be? What's the most important thing to be kind of delivering to your child as a dad? And it's by far, it's being in their life based on the statistics that we found.
Yeah, no, I think we've gone through some of the statistics in other episodes because they'll always come up because of how important they are. But I think there's a lot of unseen or not quite statistical things that are super important as well, because the stats are dire, right? Like we're talking suicide rates and pregnancy rates and dropping out of schools and going to jails and killing people and like all of the big, really awful things are worse when you're not around. And I believe, I could be wrong, I don't know if we put this in as a stat or not, but back a few years ago, I remember watching a clip which kind of got me really interested in the stats around it. Was the guy at the time had said that all of the high school shootings for that past year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever the actual stat was were carried out by boys who had fatherless homes, every single one of them.
Yeah.
And so the big stuff, right, is huge. And if you're somewhat present in your child's life, you'd be like, well, I'm there. That's not going to be my kid or whatever. But there's a lot of nuance to this, and there's all the things that you can't statistify. That's not a word. Statistical. You can't make stats for. And statisticalize. How many different ways?
Statistically. It's a tough
Any
word.
statisticians out there? What's a word? What?
Statisfy.
I keep coming back to statistify.
Statistify.
Honestly, I don't think that's a
okay.
word, but
It's all right.
now you're just talking shit. Like you're making up statisfy.
Yeah.
It's not the stratosphere.
But yeah, back to the
Talking about our kids,
stat.
not the
The stat.
anyway.
You're talking about with the high school shootings. The stat is 80% of teenage crime is from kids that are in fatherless homes. 80%. Yeah. And on top of that, 80% of youth with drug abuse problems
So
also. And here's one that really gets me. 90% of unwanted pregnancies. That one really gets me. Any dad that's got a daughter out there, and think about that one.
yeah, and and I think you can extrapolate. There's another good word. Extrapolate from the statistical analysis. Do I sound important? Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about? I'm not sure. Extrapolate from the statistical relevance of that statistical situation in the stratosphere. That how far can I go with this? Is how does that work? 90% of unwanted teenage pregnancy. So think about it. So if you are not there as a dad for your daughter, they're going to go searching elsewhere for a male role model. I think that's just human nature. And we don't have the stats on this, but I wonder how many of those pregnancies are from the dad who is a few years older than the daughter, because of that sort of searching out for some kind of male role model. You'll find anyone. It could be somebody the same age, but I would guess that it would be somebody who's a couple of years older. I'll give you
Yeah, I mean,
9.
Whoa. I think, a big part of it is when a child is missing a parent, a really important person in their life that's providing them, like part of being a parent is that connection, that male connection, that the male figure and the love from that person and the caring and the accountability and the discipline and all the elements that a male person brings into their life. And then not having that there, um, and searching out that sense of a male companion, or yeah, just somebody who's present in their life that's male, that's showing them attention, you know, and that's when, potentially the wrong male can take advantage of that situation, because they see that girl is vulnerable. You know, it's yeah, because they just don't have.
Well, and let's be honest. Let's go even a step back from that. Think about young males. I mean, we go into this in a separate section of the book about the seasons of life, and when we are young and puberty driven, hormone driven, um, we're thinking about sex all the time. So any chance we might get to do that is probably going to happen, right? If we have a chance to do it, you know. Um, so I'm not blaming this on a vulnerability of, or like the boys taking advantage of the girls' vulnerabilities. That may not be the case. It's just the dude primordially, is that a word? Um, Coming up with all kinds of words today. Primordially, is that something that is just ingrained in us? It's part of the human cycle of life to procreate. So I'm not blaming, a young teenage boy on that, but when the role model's not there for the girl, that's most likely where a lot of these pregnancies will come from, is that craving for
Mhm.
something more.
Totally.
Not sure if there is more research on that we just don't know about,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and
mm,
there's more, like 85% of behavioral issues um, are with children without fathers in their homes. 85%. That's crazy. And then we got 71% of high school dropouts, fatherless homes. 4 times greater risk of poverty, 2 times greater risk of obesity, and 60% of youth suicides, fatherless homes. Yeah. So, we talk
mm,
about, like, what's the point of the Daddiest project? Really, um, it's really, the key is to give dads a really solid foundation and awareness to, first of all, recognize that you are, along with the mother, the two most important people to that child. And that has to get, like, I really wanted kids. I can't imagine, I can't imagine having a child that I didn't want, and maybe there's men out there, dads out there, that they didn't want their child. And I can't even imagine that is possible. But um, it is possible. I think that there's dads out there that don't realize their level of importance is as high as it is, and that their presence and um, engagement, like their physical presence and engagement in their child's life, it doesn't have to be profound. It doesn't have to be like many, many hours a day. It's consistency over time, and being there through all the stages, and you know and parenting that kid. That's the difference maker. And so the Daddy's Project is really initially about setting that foundation that you are indeed 100% absolutely imperatively important to the success of your child. And it's so much bigger than you. It's it is a project about ourselves, but it's also a project about what we're leaving behind, and what we're giving to our child. And it's really, it's important to really be consistent with that. And then it's, with that realization, like, hey, we're in this for the long game, and it's about being the absolute best that we can be, in that process, because while we're spending time with our kids, the kids are sponges to us, and so we got to really, be bringing our best foot forward. So, as we are being present in our child's lives, that they're learning a great way of being. And so the onus is on us on like twofold. It's like number one, like you can't just like become a dad and take off. Like that's completely um, missing the point. That's completely missing the point of what being a dad is about, and what procreation is about. Yeah, with these stats, there's really two elements to this that we have to take a look at as dads. And the first part of it is statistically, it's very obvious that it's absolutely imperative that we are present in our child's lives. So that's step one, and that's real foundation piece of the Daddiest project. And the second part of it is what are we bringing to the table? What are we in when we are present in our child's life? What are we bringing to the table? What are we showing them? Because they're like sponges and learning, from us. They're going to be spending, hopefully, quite a bit of time with us and learning from us. So the Daddiest project is about working on ourselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point to make. A lot of these stats that we used were fatherless homes, right? And I don't think there'd be too many of the dads out there who were just sperm donors type of thing, who don't actually want to be part of their kids' lives. Because I know it seems almost self-explanatory that if you're a dad that you would want to be a part of your child's life. But there's a whole lot of dads out there, again, from maybe unwanted pregnancies or for whatever reason, literally don't want to be part of their lives. And if that's the case, then that's probably not our audience. We have dads who want to be better, want to do better, and want to be more present in their child's lives. So let's sort of ignore that first part. The second part is the one that is the dad who is there, but is looking to do better, to look at Daddiest as our mythical super dad. And we joke about it, but at some point I do actually want to create a children's book where Daddiest is like this Superman hero figure. And what would Daddiest do? I think that might even be the title of this kid's book at some point. So me and Evan have, I'll call it medium range kids, I guess. They're not older, like they're not away from the house yet, and they're not like adults and have their own kids and we're granddads and all that kind of stuff yet. But we've been through the early age and the middle-ish age-ish of like being super involved with our child. And, I think we got some good experience, but we didn't do it perfectly. That's for 100% sure. But one thing that I'm super proud of as a dad is that I have been present. I have been there. I definitely don't know the best answer for a lot of the sticking points of being the best dad possible. But when we look at it from a presence point of view, I'm pretty proud with the way that I've raised my kid and how involved that I have been in her life.
That's awesome. And to piggyback that, about being the best dad and what does that exactly look like? And that's why we wrote the Daddiest project and created Daddiest as that super dad, because we knew that we weren't perfect. We didn't do everything perfect. Or I should say, and there really isn't, like in sports, where if you're trying to achieve a very high level in sport, and I play basketball, it's very easy to look and be like, okay, who's the best at that? get Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, right? Or if you're into soccer or baseball, there's always that, that top figure to try to achieve their stats and so on to help you assess. But how do you assess who is the best dad? Who's the greatest dad? Who to aspire to? And a lot of us didn't have role models that ticked all the boxes that really essentially are required in order to have this this life that creates like optimum fulfillment for us. And so that's what we did with the Daddiest Project is we looked at the pillars that are required for dads to flourish and broke it down into 6 pillars, and we'll talk more about that on the next podcast. And at the end of each chapter, it's what would daddies do in this case? And it's really about, trying to achieve that level. And it definitely wasn't like, hey, we're daddiest. Try to be like us. It was like, hey, this is what's possible, and we're striving towards that. And that's what.
Yeah, I think it's an important point to make is that it's striving towards becoming daddiest. It's not becoming daddiest because he's a mythical superhero. He's literally figurative. He's like Superman. Like it's like saying, I want to become Superman. It's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. Don't try to be daddiest because he's too good. He's like, no way. But we did create something that can start to gamify dadhood. Us dads love a game. Us dads love our stats, our sports stats, our whatever kind of stats. And so we created Dad Score. And that's something you can go to daddiest.com and do yourself. And it's a quick quiz. And it'll give you an actual score as to how you're doing in all 6 pillars. And so I think that's an awesome tool to use. And and it may open up some blind spots. We talk about that, like the blind spots when you drive in your car. If you don't have the side view mirrors, you've got blind spots. Well, actually, even with the side, you still got to look and see if you're going to go off the rails or if you're going to crash into another car or not. So there may be some blind spots that you weren't even aware of when it comes to striving towards being daddiest. And so that's the key, right? If you're the dad listening here and you're in your child's life, then the next level is to figure out where to go from there. And that's exactly what Dad Score is.
Yeah. Dad Score is so key. And as you mentioned, to highlight the blind spots. The blind spots are when you're driving a car and the oil light doesn't even come on when the oil is low. Like you don't even know that the signal's there because you don't even know it exists. And those are the ones that they're the biggest problem. When you don't even know that pillar that's important in your life is even a pillar. And you don't even know that you are missing it in your life. And that's essentially my story, was realizing after the fact, like, hey, that's a really critical pillar and I'm not even doing it. And that's why I am where I am, and I'm like barely scraping through this thing of being a dad. And what we want is to help dads be like the oak tree that can withstand the heavy winds and the heavy rains and the storms of life and be strong through that. And that's what the Daddiest Project is about. It's about getting you to that point where you can weather the storms and
Can I be a maple tree though?
Maple trees just don't have that same, like, it's about the brand of the tree and the strength of the tree that we're trying to get across here, Scott. And a maple tree is just not the same level as an oak tree. So, I mean, you could be an maple tree, but I'm going to be an oak tree.
a gum tree? I'm here in Australia, mate.
Go.
The gum tree's
Oh, you
pretty
got
big
gum
around here,
trees?
mate.
Yeah.
The gum trees, gum wood is hard, man. I reckon it'd give oak a run for its money.
Yeah. I would have never thought a gum tree would be like that because its name is.
Is gummy. I know it doesn't sound like it, but man, it's
Yeah.
it's there's
It's like
big
the
ass
floppy
trees.
tree.
But yeah, the floppy,
floppy
tree
tree.
is super solid.
Super solid.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah,
So
you could
that's
be
a
an oak tree. I'll be a
conversation.
gum tree. You can
You can be
choose
a
whatever tree you want.
Just
Let's
pick a
not
tree.
get caught up on the tree.
Just pick a tree.
Just pick a tree.
It's not
Any
about the tree.
Your favorite
Just
tree.
pick-
It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
the idea. There's an
Yeah.
idea behind the tree. And the
Yeah.
idea is the pillar.
Not literally behind the
solid
tree. but
foundation.
yeah, it's the tree.
You
You don't have to look
pee
around the
behind
tree.
the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because you
Yeah.
might find some dude peeing behind that tree.
Yeah. You could hug the tree.
I'm just
too.
thinking golf
Hug
now,
it.
right? When you're out
Yeah.
on the golf course, depending on which course you're on and where the toilets are, and you try and stay hydrated out there. It's hot. It can be hot out there, and then but sometimes
Yeah.
you just need to go, and then that can be a something that's taking you away, a shiny object that's taking you away from your objective. Where are we going with this?
Just get the ball in the hole.
Isn't that the basic concept of so many sports? Get the
So
puck in the
many
net,
balls in
get
the
the ball
holes.
in the hoop, get the soccer ball in the net, get the golf ball in the hole, get the man. It's like it's
It's
very
always
common
stick the thing in the
process.
thing, isn't it? Stick the thing in the thing.
Just stick the thing in the thing, and that's how we get unwanted
always it.
pregnancies. Yeah,
That's right.
stick the thing
We
in
didn't
the
mention
thing.
this stat, but this is an important stat. 1/3 of children in the United States are being raised in fatherless homes. 1/3. So I think it's almost like it's just viewed as not a big deal. If 1/3, 33% of men are doing this, like, what's the brand around this? Is the brand that it's just like, hey, yeah, I'm just got a kid, but I'm not with a kid at all. Like, that's not. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, it's when
I think that
there's the
this-
blurry line between common and normal.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's an extremely common thing. 33%, 1 in 3 kids. It's so common that we tend to fall into this trap to believe that it's just a normal thing. And I don't know the stats around. I don't think we go into it around how many fathers are trying to be part of their kids' lives but are having problems with it, because that's a whole nother scenario
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
kid
100%.
is living with the mom, and then that's again the normal / common thing to do is that parents split. Obviously, kid's going to go with mom, and that can be a real issue because it could be what's the word? I mean, essentially, if the parents are not getting along, then the mother can kind of hold it over the father's head and go, well, you don't have any access to this kid. And then I know dads, I know people personally who have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in the court system to have access to their kids. There's that whole side to it. And I feel for those dads for sure, because there's a number of dads out there that we know that just don't want to have anything to do with their kids. But what about that situation when the dad desperately wants to be part of their kids' lives to the point where they'll go into debt, spend multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to try and do it, and still not get there sometimes. So that's a very unfortunate process, and I feel for those dads. But if you have the blessing or the lucky or the whatever you want to call it, of being grateful for being able to be in your child's life is a pretty awesome gift to have.
Yeah. Well, and for those dads that are in that unfortunate situation, they unfortunately relationship clearly because they're not together with the woman that they got pregnant with, and that is part of the Daddiest project is to grow a really solid relationship. So and there's lots of planned pregnancies where there's a family unit that's together for a few years, and then then the split happens, and so Daddiest, in my mind, will help strengthen relationships and strengthen families. So the likelihood of the separation is less, and I can speak from personal experience that this book has made a massive difference. And just thinking about continuously learning and applying what I'm from what we've created here with Daddiest in my personal relationship has been a massive difference maker. And I think that's another thing is, we're talking about doing the Daddiest Score and the blind spots and so on that we can have, and that can be a big one where dads are just kind of going through the day-to-day and may not be really focusing on a particular area of their life, and it could be the relationship and letting that slip, and bam, next thing you know, you might be in a custody battle because of miscommunication or other things that have been occurring in relationships. So the Daddiest Project is a really important book to pick up and get those fundamentals and get them solid, and get like an oak tree.
Or a gum
Not
tree.
a maple tree. Just pick a tree.
If you really love a maple
All
tree,
right.
you can still be a maple tree. It is a figurative situation there.
Yeah, they're beautiful
Now, with that
trees.
said,
They're beautiful trees.
there might be, well, not might be, there will be dads out there who would hear this who have already separated, who they've tried everything and it's the right thing to separate. So there's lots of different situations out there, but the key of what we're talking about today is to be present in your kid's life, no matter what the circumstances are. To be present, and that's step number one. And then once you decide that that's where things are at and what you can do, then there's the levels to figure out, okay, what level of presence can I be that's constructive and productive and going to allow me to enjoy my life, but my kid to grow up and be just an awesome person. There was you talked about like there's no role models specifically for good dads, and I heard somebody once say, it was like some billionaire, and they said, my definition of a good dad is if my adult children still want to hang out with me. Like, I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different ways to quantify what being a good dad is, but I think that's a pretty cool one. If your adult kids still want to spend time with you, then you didn't damage them too much on the way up.
Absolutely. All right, with that, we'll see you on the next one.
That's another episode in the books, dads. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was dadhood.
True story. For more tools to build your best dad life, grab our book, The Daddiest Project, or join us at daddiest.com.
And hey, if you learned one thing today, you're already winning. Even if that one thing was never trust a 3-year-old with glitter.
Words to live by. Now go forth and dad like a pro.